What's up, guys? So I'm getting ready to try and upgrade the stereo on my 2014 Kawasaki Vaquero. Gotten all the parts and I've got a weekend ahead of me, so hopefully this won't turn into a boondoggle and I'll have my bike up and running in a short amount of time. But we're going to jump into it. So I'll be changing out the head unit. I've got a Kenwood KMR-M318BT. So that's a marine radio with Bluetooth. I believe it's 50 watt channel, 4-channel stereo. This is what everyone recommends. So we picked that up. I'll be putting in a Rockford Fosqate PBR 300 4-channel amp, a little punch amp. I've got Randy Brewster's cable that can be bought from Engineered Adapters. And I've got my PAC steering wheel thingy, so I should be able to keep the controls on the bike and still operate the radio. I already have an amp wired in right now, so I'll have to do some backwards wiring. Hopefully I can get around that. It won't be too much. And I have currently 4 Polk audio stereo speakers in there, all 6.5 on fairing in my bags. As of right now, I won't be adding a subwoofer or anything like that, but in the future I would like to add provision for a subwoofer that will be hot swappable, or to where I can put it on, put it off. It'll be mounted in a waterproof, like a Pelican case or something like that, on my luggage rack, so I can have it when I want it and not when I don't. So we're going to jump into it here. I'm going to take apart the fairing, and so we can video that, and I'll just speed it up, I guess. But first step's going to be taking off the fairing, and then we're going to climb into the wiring. Alright. Well, we're going to get started here. First thing to do is going to be have to go back and drop the light bar. You'll notice I've got the day maker. All right. Focus. There we are. All right, so fairing's off. Took about 15-20 minutes. Obviously, you watched that in about 20 seconds probably. As you saw, I have the daylight, or the daymaker upgrade. I also have this LED modulator for the daymaker. So here's the old amp. It's I don't even remember, Clarion. Not a big fan of it, honestly. It's well, yeah, I'm just not a big fan. Doesn't really have any adjustability. Just gives me high, low, and then like 80 and 60 hertz and flat, whatever flat means. So I'm going to take off the amp and then try and figure out taking out the head unit. Forgot to mention I also have the Randy Brewster's single DIN faceplate adapter. So we're gonna go ahead and get the amp out. Excuse me, get the head unit out and put everything in, and then I'll start cracking these wires open. Not looking forward to the controller, because even with all the people on the forums, there seems to still be a lot of confusion on how to do it. So I'll be right back. Alright, we're back. Taking out the Clarion. Alright, so as you can see, I did some modifying of the harness already, which looks like we might be undoing. So that's going to add to the complication factor on my end. Alright, let's go get some of that new stuff. We're back. So I kind of jumped the gun there. I should have videotaped me gluing this thing together. But you are all smart individuals. I'm sure you can figure out how to glue something so simple together. I don't know if we were supposed to do this, but the stock stereo, which I've suddenly disappeared, anyway, had a cool little rubber gasket that goes around the outside here. I took that off. I imagine I probably destroyed it. However, I put it on the Randy Brewster adapter and it fits perfectly, so it probably was supposed to go on there, but now it's definitely on there. So got that. So got my weather seal on there. You probably glue it. I'm not gonna. And that just slips right in. And with that gasket, it's got no slop. Hence the reason I think it's supposed to be there. So next up, we're going to go ahead and grab our stereo. Now I'm imagining that the stock bracket around the head unit is going to be retained. That would make sense. Here is part of a universal wiring harness. One thing about the Brewster adapter I'm slightly concerned about is the size of the speaker wire. It's like smaller than stock size even. That looks like, I don't know, 24 gauge maybe? And this is aircraft style wire, so this is all tinned, either tinned copper or it's aluminum, which I have feelings about aluminum. I'm going to assume it's not aluminum. So you got some 18 gauge, and this one, that makes this either 20 or 22 gauge possibly. It always makes me laugh how cheap these things feel. And head units are always super flimsy. USB adapter, and I wonder how many amps that puts out. Anyway, I glued it up with some super glue. I don't know if I mentioned that. Looks like it should work. Okay, so last night I finished up the stock wiring harness. I put it back to factory. I had in here I had spliced in the old amplifier, but because I have this adapter harness from Randy Brewster, I wanted to put the stock harness back in its original configuration. Excuse me. And the other thing I did was went ahead and installed the new head unit. and I've prepped some of the wires for that. All that entailed was soldering on the jumper harness for the amplifier on the output, or excuse me, the input, and I've prepped the output lines going into the adapter harness portion. So you guys didn't really miss anything except for a bunch of soldering. All that's going to be is following the wiring diagram, especially on the stereo, you know, purple to purple and white to white. That this one's a little more intensive because the colors don't quite match, but Randy supplies a wiring diagram, which, Randy, I might send you a better version of this. It's a little easier to understand. But next we are going to install the PAC. I'm going to make a bracket for the amp and then get the rest of this wired in. I still have a couple more wires to go into the harness. I've got the power and the switched wire for the stereo. That's going to go into the harness adapter, which that's one thing about the size wire I was kind of worried about is the Brewster adapter has an 18 gauge maybe, and this is, that might be a 16 on the power line. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it'll work fine. It's just, I like bigger wire. So I'm gonna get started on the bracket first, and then we'll get back into it. And we're back. So what I found in my scrap bin is this neat little piece of aluminum angle. I'm gonna have to cut it down. I'll be cutting it down and attaching it to these two head unit bolts right there. And then I'm probably going to run a stringer from these two bolts across to give it some more support. One thing kind of bums me out is slightly too short, so I'll have to extend it up a little bit. Not really sure how I'm going to go about that. We'll figure it out. Alright, got the bracket done. Pulled out the TIG welder. Never TIG welded aluminum before. Kind of sucks. But, oh well. It's on there. So now we're going to start working on wiring up the PAC. Okay, this is going to be choppy. But, so far what I've done, I've soldered the ground wire from the stereo to the ground wire of the adapter plug. I took off a third wire here, and we'll be soldering that to the PAC. If you look closely at the PAC, the single ground wire that comes out of the unit is split into a Y. The wiring diagram shows one going to the adapter plug and the other going to a body ground. So what I've done is got the ground wire from the PAC going to the combined ground from the stereo to the adapter plug. I've also taken the blue with a white stripe wire from the adapter plug, and that's going to the red wire from the stereo and the red wire to the PAC. That will be a switched power source according to the wire diagram. So now that we got those two in, we'll move on to the next one. Alright, next up we've taken the blue with the yellow stripe wire from the PAC and connected that to the blue with a yellow stripe wire from the stereo. This one was pre-labeled steering wheel remote input. Okay, we're doing the PAC now. Off the adapter harness, we've got the 3 tan lines. And according to these diagrams I got off Kawasaki forum, we do brown yellow. We put a 200 ohm resistor in. I didn't have a 200 on hand and one didn't come in the kit, so I took two 100 ohms and chained them together for a 200 ohm. The tan blue gets 1000 ohms or 1 kilo ohm. And then the tan green is nothing. And that is going to go to a white wire on the PAC. Now something interesting you'll notice is the white wire on the PAC. It's kind of hard to see here. Here we are. The white wire on the PAC gets split into 3 different white wires. I've got a white, red, solid white, and white and black. I'm just going to use the white, or the solid white, even though they're all connected, so I'm going to zip tie these up. I'm not trying to cut too much of the wires off, so I'm just going to be zip tying up the excess like this. But those 3 wires, the 3 tan lines, are going to the solid white wire on the PAC. Quick little pro tip: when you are putting these all together, take a piece of scrap wire and lay it in line with these resistors. It'll kind of give it a little more structure for when it's all wired up. You don't want it just hanging on the tiny little strand of the resistor, so this will give it a little bit more beef to it. Alright, just did up the green ones, or light teal, but I got green, black, which went to a 560 ohm resistor. The solid green went to a 100 ohm resistor, and then the light green red went to a 470 ohm resistor, and those all get unitized into a single ground wire. So I got my black wire, and that'll be going to a common body ground. Clean this up a little bit. I'm going to run a new ground line for the amp that goes directly to the battery as per the instructions for the punch. The power wire I have is already run direct to battery. One thing I haven't seen anywhere is that the antenna wire is going to be too short. So I'm going to have to run up to Best Buy and get a little 12-inch antenna wire to bridge the gap there. And once I get those 2 things done, I will start tuning the amp and getting everything buttoned up on programming the PAC, which I have no idea how to do. This little guy is a sound isolator. On my previous install, I was getting feedback from my headlight modulator through the stereo when in Bluetooth. So I'm going to isolate the high beam power wire, because that's the only time it flashes is in high beam. So hopefully it'll clean up any sound feedback, but we'll come back to it. Alright, so we've got everything in, power wires run. I brought a ground cable from my battery, and I brought a dedicated ground to my grounding point here in the fender, and then pulled another ground from the amp to that same location. And I should be able to kick this thing on and start figuring out how to program the PAC. Obviously I just have my front speakers just sitting there because I have to manipulate everything, and then I have to tune the amp tune the amp as well. So let's figure this out. Okay, so the instructions I found online off the forums say we're going to use vehicle version number 3 for the PAC. I'm pretty much just going to read these instructions and do them live. So we're going to step 4, program the vehicle version. Refer to vehicle installation on a website which doesn't come up for Kawasaki. Press and hold the programming button on the side of the SWI-RC. Turn on the vehicle ignition to the on position. Still holding the button. The LED on the SWI-RC, I'm just going to call it the PAC, on the PAC will turn on. Release the programming button, the LED will turn off. Press and release the button the number of times as desired. Vehicle version numbers, so I'm guessing I'm going to hit the button 3 times. The LED will flash each time the button is pressed and released. I will wait 3 seconds. The LED will flash the same number of times, and then turn the ignition off. Nope, only got 2. So it says you can redo it. Press and hold. On. Release. Press. 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 There we go. Wait 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Alright. Then turn the ignition off. Mapping the PAC button functions. Okay, for programming we're going to go pretty quick because it's kind of a go type of thing. So what needs to happen is I will put the vehicle in on. The LED on the PAC will flash 3 times saying I'm in vehicle version 3. And then I will press and release the programming button. The LED will turn on, and then within 7 seconds I need to press and hold each button for 5 seconds. And then to skip a function, I will press the programming button. So what's going to happen is I'm going to press and release, and then within 7 seconds I'm going to go volume up for 5 seconds, release, volume down for 5 seconds, release. I'm going to program mute using the P. Then I'm going to program the source using the M or mode. I'm going to skip play, so I'll be skipping function number 5, and then track plus and track minus for 6 and 7. I'm hoping that'll be also AM and FM source. We'll see. Alright, 1, 2, 3. Press and release the button. LED's on within 7 seconds. Volume up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. P. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Source M. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Play, which we're skipping. Track plus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Track minus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're going to skip 8. Skip 9. Skip 10. Skip 11. Skip 12. Skip 13. Skip 14. Okay, the lights turned off and now it's blinking a whole lot at me. Now it's off. Okay. Once you have mapped the functions, wait 7 seconds. The LED will flash 3 times, indicating end of mapping. Test the functions for proper functionality. Every time I push a button, the LED interface should blink. If any function doesn't work, repeat the entire process. Okay, so volume down. Volume down works. Volume up. Volume up works. Go down. Okay. Yep. Okay, tune down. Looks like it's auto searching too. That's cool. Up. It does kind of suck though that I can't. Oh, here's a oldie. All right, source. Okay, it's not taking source. It's treating my mute the same as volume down. Be such a big deal because I can just hit the source button up top, and I'm pretty much always going to be we're in standby. And just turn it off. Alright, so the mode in the mute's not working. Alright, we're going to go through the process one more time, see if it takes, and if it doesn't, then I'll go off camera and just do it until it does. Okay, so back off. Start the vehicle, LED will flash, press and release the programming button, LED will turn on within 7 seconds. Alright, there are 1, 2, 3. Programming button, and volume up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Source. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, skip. Track up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Track down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then skip 8. Skip 9. Skip 10. Skip 11. Skip 12. Skip 13. Skip 14, it's off. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 real fast. Alright. Volume down. Volume up. Mute. Mute's still not working. Or mode, rather. Alright, well, we're going to try and figure out this programming thing. Alright guys, I reprogrammed it. I changed up the format a little bit so my volume up and down work on the appropriate settings. The tune up and down. Let's try and get you there, sorry. The tune up and down works for the tuner, and the mode selection is now going to be T. The P should be play and pause, that'll be in multimedia, and then the volume, the M, won't do anything now. So that kind of sucks, but I never used the CB, so I'm not too worried about that. Next up, we got to tune the amplifier for the best output for the speakers, and then I can button this thing back up. And we're back. So something I just did, I had this little rubber mat underneath the amp to try and dampen some vibration, but everything I was reading about these is they tend to get a little warm. So I'm just I just straight surface mounted it to this aluminum bracket, so that bracket should help provide a little bit of cooling, thermodynamic cooling. So hopefully I won't have any issues with vibration on a motorcycle, on a road where I'm at, which is tons of potholes. Anyway, I've got everything wired up. Last night I got the PAC programmed. So what I'm going to be doing now is tuning the amplifier. I've got 75 watts per channel, and I'm using 4 ohm speakers. 4 ohm speakers. So you take 75, multiply that by the ohms, so that's 300, and then the square root of 300 is 17.2 or 17.3. So I will be tuning the output to the speakers to that 17.3 volts AC, and I'll be having the stereo set at approximately 3/4 volume, and I'll be running a 1 kilohertz tone through the system. Since this doesn't have a CD player, I will be putting a 1 kilohertz tone on a thumb drive and playing that on a loop while I'm doing the tuning. So I gotta go get a thumb drive set up, and we'll get to going. Okay, went to mediacollege.com. I've got, you can get 100 hertz, 250 hertz, 440, 1 kilohertz, and 10 kilohertz all on here in either 5 or 30-second loops. So I will get should probably do the wave file. Something I will be doing in the future is putting in subwoofer outputs. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do with the subwoofer yet, because like I mentioned earlier, I want to do a removable one. So I need to figure out what's going to be the best option for that. Alright. Now we go figure out how to get this thing going. Alright, we've got the tone going. 75% of my total volume. I've got volume goes up to 35, whatever that is. So we're going to go to 26 on the volume. Make sure that you've disconnected your speakers. You don't want that sine wave blowing through your speakers. What's funny is I can actually hear the tone through the amp. Alright, volts AC. And a little screwdriver. That. We got a front. And I said we're shooting for 17. Okay, which puts us Alright, I got 17.2. Verified on the other. Oh, let's see, now the other one's 18. And that would be... Alright, so we're going to bring it down. 17.2 there. And 16.3. Now check the rears. Which, before I did any messing with it, are at 23.5. Kind of a butt trying to get that in there. 17.3, 17.27, verified on the other channel, and 16.9. Alright, so there's that. We're going to plug the speakers back in and turn on the radio. Alright, here we go. Plug the speakers back in. And what I've done, I put it in high pass because these are just 16.5s. I don't need all kinds of crazy bass trying to distort the sound wave out of these. So where we wound up on the amplifier is just under 5, probably at the 4.5 mark roughly in the rear, and then the fronts are almost right at a 5. Yeah, both are in high pass, front and rear, which I might put the rear in all pass. We'll see what happens there. Okay, we got a little bit more tone out of the back when I did that. Let's try the volume. I like doing it with classical music because you're going to have a lot of high tones in classical, and you will get some pretty deep bass tones as well. Try something a little more contemporary. Alright, so we're in rear no pass, then rear high pass. No pass, high pass. Unfortunately, that channel doesn't come in very clear because I put a shorty antenna on. But I think we're good for the stereo. I'm going to put that same tone on my cell phone and run the Bluetooth. The reason I'm doing that is the phone kind of acts like a preamp in that it changes the EQ, so it gives it some dB boost inherently when I turn up the volume. So we're going to try running that tone off my phone and then rechecking the voltage. Primarily I run this thing with my Bluetooth, and then we're gonna button up most of it and try it again with the headlight and see if I still get that. I should have recorded it before, but it was like with the modulator, every time it would modulate, it would send a dirty wave through the power, and it would give me a lot of noise, feedback noise. So we're gonna try. Let's see what happens. Alright guys, so everything's all buttoned up. The fairing's back on. Everything's all squared away. Like I mentioned before, when the headlight would modulate, I would get some feedback across the Bluetooth, which pretty sure is gone now. Of course I can't show that to you on the Bluetooth because I'm recording on my phone, but the audio comes on. Turn the headlight on. So there it's modulating. There's no feedback through the stereo. Like I said, I tried it in Bluetooth and it was just fine. No feedback in the Bluetooth, so I think we're all good. But I'm going to link a couple things down in the description, the items I used, and I'll try and put up some links on where to download the instructions that I pulled off the forums. That way we have more copies of it out there. But hope you guys find this helpful. Good luck.